doing this, it has started recording already. So I'm going to have to go back and do some editing because I can't see what's going on until this thing gets started. So I can hit mute. Doing this, it has started recording. Yeah, hear that? Got it? And we are live. Triple T number 60. That's 60 in a row. Holy smokehouse, as Grandpa would say. February 21st, 2023. Welcome for those of you that are on the call with me and those of you watching live on YouTube. I appreciate your support more than I can say because I only have a human vocabulary. Also want to remind you that I do have a website, thetswb.com. That's thetswb.com. Tall, skinny white boy.com. That's right. I also offer a free 30-minute consultation. That is your opportunity to have 30 minutes with me to discuss whatever you want. If you're looking to get some help on stuff, it's also our opportunity to make sure that I am a good fit to find the solutions you're looking for. If I'm not, I will let you know and do my best to help you find the right person to get you the help you're searching for. As always, because we are on a YouTube platform as well, all the standard YouTube protocols, please hit the click subscribe, ring the bell, leave comments. I'm noticing that even though I'm asking for comments, my comment sections are still a little on the thin side, like 0 on a lot of them. So hopefully that means that, more people will tell you bad stuff than good stuff. So I'm just going to roll with that because in the quantum of possibilities, it's always best to invest your energy into best possible scenarios because stuff is going to happen anyway.
Assume positive intent. Yes,
and I've got lots of stuff that I want to cover, but I also like to ask those that made it to the call, is there any ahas, epiphanies, cool stuff you want to share from the week? And for those of you that are also joining, if you have topics for the second hour, I'm going to start asking for them during the first hour, and you can type them into the chat so that we don't sit there and let everybody be politely patient. No, you go first. No, you go first. No, you go first. After you. After you.
It is true. We all do that. I am finding that I started going out and finding other leads from the other places that I've been in. So I've been in BNIs and Chamber of Commerce's, and I'm noticing that the things that I do don't technically resonate with a good 80% of the people that are going there. So I'm finding a lot of different I'm looking for new avenues to find the work that we do to resonate with the people that would benefit most from it. So I've started to look at BNI's and Chamber of Commerce's a little bit differently lately. So, nice little twist. I did not see it coming. That's for sure.
Here's another challenge that I'm going to throw out there, and we can bring this up for the rest of the people in the second hour. What other services can you provide with the skill sets that you have available to you to appeal to some of the 80%ers who don't necessarily feel like they could use any type of tune-up, even though 95% of the world's population could benefit from that. Or what other ways can that be pointed out?
So I'm finding that I'm actually going to do a presentation next week or in next week, on selling and on how to help people network better when they go to chamber events or when they're with other people, and how to get them to better understand how they're selling and how they could improve what they're selling, and also how to ensure that they're building strong rapport with the individual that they're working with, but also to find out if it's a good fit for them, and if not, how to direct them to where they need to go in the most sincere, reputable, trustworthy way.
Well, a squirrel just landed on the road and threw me a letter that has been hermetically sealed in a mason jar on the steps of Funk and Wagnall's front porch. And it states, once upon a time, stories, yes. Tell stories now. Success stories that include items that they may not have thought of. One of the ways that I have allowed certain people in the area to know that I do this thing called holographic memory resolution is I tell them the little story of the crying girl in the grocery store. And I tell them it's easy to learn, and it's one of the most beneficial ways for you to take care of your children's pain. And once they learn it, they can do it for themselves and others for the rest of their life. And it took me all of about 2 minutes without any setup, without any prompting, in a grocery store. And I've had a few people follow up on that. So the power of stories. And some of you may not know, and those of you watching the recording later obviously will not know. Today I went to a leadership conference put on by Burleson, Texas. What do they call themselves? I should know this. I rehearsed this because I got home about 20 minutes ago. Anyway, it's called Project U. Full day leadership conference. And they had a great selection of keynote speakers this year, which I will be commenting on some of them. I don't have time to address all of them because the last one was so phenomenal. Couple of the standout ones, Betsy Allen Manning, a really good person to follow. I follow her on Instagram, and it would behoove you to follow her as well. Who else we got on here? We had Super Dave Quinn. And Mark Robinson, who is a comedian and a magician, was hilarious and edutainment at its finest. Rachel Bialto, another amazing speaker worth researching, looking into. And then the final one, Dr. Rick Rigsby. Wow. is a minor word to describe wow. And wrote a couple of books. One of them, Lessons from a Third Grade Dropout. He also has a can't think of the word right, graduation talk that he did under the same name. And I remember watching it a while back, and I'd forgotten about it until he came out, and oh, have I got some nuggets to share with you from that brilliant talk. And like, where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? He said, he pointed out that right now, a century worth of learning is now happening so rapidly because of our ability to access information and share information worldwide, that humans now double our critical knowledge in what time frame? Take a guess. Give me a guess. Give me a number. Give me a number. How long do you think it takes for us to double our knowledge?
I don't even kind of know.
And this is going on.
We get multiple
It
choices.
took us 100 years to accomplish the knowledge that we have today. They would call that a century knowledge frame. Okay. How long does it take now to accumulate that much more knowledge?
A lot less time.
Years, it's what?
I'm going to go with 3, 4, 5, somewhere under 10.
72.
72 years? Really?
Days.
Thank you. I was like
72 days versus 100 years. Let that sink in now, because it took us a while too. Unfortunately, there's something that didn't come along with that our grandparents had. What do you think that was?
Attention, patience, willingness.
Well, yes.
Go for it.
Sadly, the one that we are lacking the most, the number one challenge of today's society is common sense. Ow, woo, bang, right in the forehead.
Well, when they have to put "don't eat" on the Tide pads, I think, we've hitting a new level of issues.
Right. So we're getting access to more information faster than ever, and we're missing one of the most critical ingredients for sustainability. So his question was, now what? Here we are doubling our critical knowledge every 72 days, and we're losing common sense at a rapid rate. Now what? His message was, be the 21st century leader that your grandmother would hire. I'll repeat that. Be the 21st century leader that your grandmother would hire. And the best way to do that? Practice the basics. He quoted a number of different pro athletes, and I was so engrossed I didn't want to lose much, so I I only have, my notes are a little randomish, so I'm glad I'm able to spill them out on a recording while they're still fresh in my brain. And one that stuck out with me was he quoted a tennis pro that had played the circuit and said, who were you most intimidated by? And the guy said, guess. And so he guessed all these great names. And the guy said, nope, Bjorn Borg. And there's actually a movie, and I forgot who he was up against. It was like Bjorn Borg versus Agassi or something. Anyhow, hello, lovely friend. The thing that Bjorn Borg did was he practiced the basics over and over and over and over, and he attacked so well with just the basics that he was one of the hardest people to play against. Just like a famous quote from, and I had it just, Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee said that he was not nearly as afraid of a person who knew 1,000 hits as he was of the person who practiced one hit 1,000 times. And so one of the things that he said is, and he said it so fast, that this quote is not exactly what it was. It was as good as I could interpret it and write it. Champions are not champions are champions not because they do extraordinary things, but because they do normal things extraordinarily well. Back to practice the basics, the basics, the basics. Once you have the basics down to where they are who you are, then you can start adding on all the fancy bells and whistles one at a time. And to do the normal things extraordinarily well, I love this part, was 3 parts. 1, start where you are. Don't worry about where everybody else is. Start where you are. Number 2, use what you have. Don't sit there and whine about, well, I got this really cute, cool thingy, and I just got. Use what you have. And number 3, do what you can. Again, right back to the basics. Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Another part that from his talk was set your goals high enough that they scare you. Because if your goal doesn't scare you, it's useless. People don't fail because they aim for the stars and miss. They fail because they aim for the ground and succeed. Here's another part that struck me. If you
I
want
really
people to
needed
listen,
to hear that, Gold. Sorry. Just that was great.
That's why I'm sharing. I wanted to get this stuff out because you came in a little late. These are from Dr. Rick Rigsby. And if you get a chance, get his book, this one right here, Lessons from a Third Grade Dropout. So, what is one of the primary things you need to do if you want people to listen to you? Any guesses?
My first guess would be to come across as an authority on the subject.
Great answer. Not the one I'm looking for, but it is a great answer. Anybody else? You need to give them a reason to listen. And a great reason can be urgency. Another reason, place a demand on them. Teachers do this all the time. Why do we listen to teachers? There's going to be a test. You have this much time to listen to me. And then I'm going to test on whether or not you were listening to me. Interestingly, that will perk ears up a little bit more than just blabbing away. I also like interaction. That's why edutainment will always trump over the people that just get up on their soapbox and blah, 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 fact, hearing that. And be as much of you as you can be, even more than normal. Be relatable. That's from one of the other talks, and I'll go back over that and we'll cover that in just a bit. Here's another part about in reference to be the 21st century leader that your grandmother would hire. What was a big thing for our grandparents? They owned it. Grandparents didn't have a whole lot of, at least my grandparents, where I grew up, they didn't have a whole lot of time for excuses and lying and all of the above. And he pointed it out, you don't blame others. And you don't make excuses. Referenced a great book, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leaf. Navy SEALs, Mondo Respect, a good friend of mine, JP, also does talks for them, with them. Mad respect for those guys. And They are very much so. Don't blame others. Don't make excuses. And here was one that one quote that was really cool. Stop saying I'm sorry. Because saying I'm sorry is a polite way to say you caught me. Woo. I'm going to say that one again. Because even I was like, oh, that's good. Stop saying I'm sorry. Because I'm sorry is a polite way to say you caught me. This isn't about I'm sorry you lost your dog. I'm sorry that your family member died. That's a different sorry. It's I'm sorry I did this and it hurt you. I'm sorry that I'm late. I'm sorry that I ended up at the wrong hotel. I'm sorry that I wasn't ready for a talk. You own it. He was talking about how he had this big keynote speech that he was hired to do at a hotel. Shows up, stays at the hotel, gets up in the morning, and he's getting ready and calls down to the desk and says, could I have some of these things ready in the conference room for my talk? And the front desk goes, for you what? For my talk. Well, which talk? Oh, sir, you're at the wrong place. You're supposed to be at our other place a half an hour away. So his morning went from leisurely morning idle to hammer down, holy cow, get in the car, drive like crazy, get there just in time. And he said the whole time he was fuming at his staff, sent them texts, finished the keynote, went great, all the above. He's still fuming. They've got a Zoom meeting, a Zoom call coming up at 2 p.m. And he drives back to the wrong hotel where his room is. And he's got 2 hours before the Zoom call. And it clicked on him. It wasn't their fault. It was his fault. He had all the time to verify. He had all the abilities to verify. It was on him. He owned it. Zoom call starts and before he can even say anything, as soon as they clicked on, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. He's like, it was my fault. He owned up to it. And he said, in that moment, the transparency showed him what it felt like and what it did to his staff reflected the importance of it. And I'm just as guilty. There have been enough times where I've been so angry at somebody else and I've got to sit back and go, what was my part in it? Did I say yes or did I, Were there things that I could have, should have, would have done? Then I guess we're going to call it a learning opportunity, which will make it even more so my thing to own up to if and when it should ever happen again. Now, here's one that caused mild concern for me. Another thing about getting people to listen, again, giving them a reason, placing some type of demand on them, but if you don't have that leverage, you still want to be able to share and teach. And he said there is no such thing as a boring subject, only boring teachers. If a teacher is engaging enough, I know there have been a couple of things that I've been sucked into that I've learned for no other reason than the teacher was engaging and interesting. And when the class got done, I'm like, wow, that was cool. Glad I stuck around. And people that don't get it are like, you sat through a class for what? Great teacher. That's why. And so it made me want to make sure that I'm an engaging teacher, that I have the ability to not share, that I have the ability to respect what I've learned by sharing it properly so that people will engage in it and remember it. Because I think at this point in our life, we've had at least one teacher that it didn't matter how technically accurate the facts and information was that they had. At the end of the class, all you did was lost that much of your life because you didn't remember anything. You weren't engaged. It was so boring. It had all the personality of wet cardboard, which in the end was a sad waste of time on everybody's part. And then he addressed something that also I've addressed a few times. Anybody remember the 3 most expensive words when somebody wants to teach something? Hello?
Isn't it along the lines of, I already heard that, or I already know that?
Ding, ding, ding. Yes, I know that. And it I had a little flashback that I call those people cement heads. Their mind is all mixed up and permanently set. You can't teach them anything. Not only do they already know everything, whatever you're trying to teach them that is different than what they already know is probably not right. That's not how I learned it. And so he followed it up with a great quote, especially for younger generations that, as we know it all. And that is, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. I will say that one again. It's what you learn after you know it all that counts. And then he said another quote that was like, oh, and that is, ego is the anesthesia that dulls the pain of stupidity. I will say that one again. Ego is the anesthesia that dulls the pain of stupidity. How many times have we witnessed somebody who allowed their ego to have them do something that was so far against common sense that some people that couldn't talk them out of it just simply stood back and went, well, I'm here for the show. Slow train wreck coming up. Boop, boop. And here's one for people when you're working with people that have been through, as some of us have had the privilege of helping those that have been through some of the darkest, lowest parts ever, and they feel like they've lost hope. And this came after the love of his life, his first wife, passed away from breast cancer. And he's standing there with his two little boys at her casket. And his father was a third grade dropout standing behind him. Said he looked at his dad and said, Dad, I've lost all hope. And his dad said, you can't lose something that God gave you. You haven't lost hope. You've just lost perspective. And not a dry eye in the room, including yours truly, the Rock of Gibraltar, who, shows no emotions whatsoever. And we're all looking around going, this guy's coming to speak and you don't put Kleenex on any table? What the what? So I'll say that again because I hope to remember it, because I've ran into people that feel like they've lost all hope. You can't lose something God gave you. You haven't lost hope. You just lost perspective. And a little while later, he did what his dying wife had told him. He met another absolutely most beautiful woman he'd ever seen. And they're married. Decided to have a few more kids because he didn't think about it, he said. But it helped him, again, be able to have a message and to write a book and to do what he's accomplished and have a message. And that's why, Lenora, when you said earlier, there are some in an 80 percentile that don't understand what you can do for them. tell stories. And don't be a boring teacher, which for you is almost impossible because you've got too much energy. And that took 41 minis on just Dr. Rigsby, which only leaves me a little bit of time for some of the others. So, woo, hang on. I'm gonna try and pick out a couple of the big top hard ones. Leadership is not a title, it's a responsibility. You don't have to have the title to be an amazing leader. You simply have to step into the responsibility and be able to lift others up as part of that. Mark Robinson, magician, comedian, been on a lot of shows. If you research him, he's a riot, very talented. But he had this great example of listening and making sure that you're paying attention. And so I'm going to ask you guys a couple of quick questions. And if you would, please play along. Type your answers in the chat. They're super simple answers. So here we go. What is the most primary color for envelopes? Type it in the chat quick. What do cows drink? What do you call the raised letters that deaf people use? Yep, and he got the vast majority. You ladies were on top of it because a bunch of people. What's the primary color of most envelopes? White. What do cows drink? The amount of people that said milk was off the chart. What do you call the raised letters that deaf people use? Yes. He also did everybody make this. Now put it upside down. Now put it right side up. Now put it on your chin. Yes. Looking around the room, how many people had their hands stuck here? All to enforce the importance of listening. To Rachel Dialto, another incredible speaker. She pointed out a statistic that was kind of a bummer, I ain't gonna lie. 1 in 3 adults feel seriously lonely. 1 in 3. And her talk was on connections and relatability and communication. And relatability is the ability to easily connect to, communicate with, and inspire others and ourselves. I'll read that again. Relatability is the ability to easily connect to, communicate with, and inspire others and ourselves. The cool part is, or I should say the double-edged sword about it is a learned skill. Which unfortunately isn't taught nearly as much as it should be, could be, would be, needs to be. And in that, we need to be able to understand and read people a little bit better. Not to change who we are, but to adapt to be able to treat people the way they need to be treated. Which, of course, is in alignment with the trifecta of communications and being able to build rapport and everything. And the better we get at being able to treat people the way they need to be treated, the quicker they will hear our message and be able to feel less lonely. Connection, this was cool. Connection is the who, communication is the how. And it's the same three letters. Connection is the who, but communication is the how. Figuring out how we can connect and communicate with these people, everybody around us. One of the funny things she did was, she goes, "Where are my extroverts at?" Obviously, that wasn't a problem because you can hear the extroverts. Where are my introverts at? I can't hear you. Here. And she jumped off the stage, ran up to one of the introverts. "Hi, how you doing? Good to see you. Good. We're going to be best friends, aren't we? Oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. So what's your favorite part about the event so far?" Stuck the mic right in her face. The lady's like, "Ah." She goes, "How you feeling right now?" The lady's just like, she goes, "Okay, that was just a demonstration. I know you hate me." This is why we have to be able to treat people the way that they need to be treated, so that we can communicate with them long enough to build the rapport and figure out who they are. It doesn't mean that we are not authentic to ourselves. Part of that is being our authentic self, because in doing so and learning that trait, we become authentically the person that can talk to and relate to anybody. What a concept. And then the other one is 2 simple words. Hey, Bo. And those 2 words are, then what? I could get the job. Okay, you could get the job, then what? I can get my king. Okay, you can get your king, your queen, your person, then what? It's kind of a drilling down to values and criteria, isn't it? Kind of sound a little familiar? I can start my own business. Then what? And helping people to show you what they may need so that we can find out ways to help them find the solutions. We may not be part of the solution, but in simply getting them to talk about it, they can start finding the solution themselves at a faster rate than if they tried to do it simply by themselves. And one of the big secrets of relatability is living out what lights you up. Or as some of us in the know, living your golden path allows you to be much more relatable. And in doing so, go ahead.
Tell me more about that, TJ.
If you are truly doing what lights you up, when you describe that, when you're around other people, how much do you feel like you have to hide or be something else? We've all seen those people that are doing, you just look at them. When they start talking about what they do, you know they're doing what they should be doing. You don't feel like they're putting on an act. They don't have to. They are lit up. They are excited. I think the ones that are the hardest are the ones that are in the soul-sucking job. And they're hiding not only that, they're hiding the other aspects of their life, or, they're just, you've seen them. They've got that beautiful rain cloud of darkness hanging around them.
So if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is they're more relatable because they're lit up, and when they're in that depressive, dark rain cloud state, they're not as relatable.
I think it's harder to be out and be relatable with people if you're not doing something that if you're not doing what you should be doing, what you feel you should be doing, or if you don't have a reason to get up in the morning that excites you, I think it's also more challenging to be relatable to others. I know that on days when the universe has done a sewer diversion over into my lifestyle, I don't really want to talk to a whole lot of people. And if I do, I keep it shallow and all the above. And I'm no doubt that I'm probably much less relatable than when I'm doing what I'm excited about. I'll find ways to communicate with them on levels that I won't when I'm not fired up. Does that make sense? I guess we could also refer to Shen. If your Shen is super low, I think it's a lot more challenging to be relatable to other people simply because you don't have the energy to put up with them. Whereas when your Shen is popping, they are drawn to you anyway. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's actually when you're in that flow, you're actually in a higher vibration. And when you're in that higher vibration, people are attracted to you. Low vibration just repels people.
Yep. And that's where, going back to connection and communication, relatability in the quote was the ability to easily connect to, communicate with, and inspire others. And when your Shen energy is up, that has to be much easier. Connection is the who, communication is the how. And that was a full day conference compressed into 1 hour, and I haven't even touched 2 of the other speakers. So I think part of the message for me from that is find as many ways to invest in yourself as possible. This took a day of my life and allowed me to come here and share this with you guys, which made the investment monetarily and in time well worth it. And of course, there's a chance that I may or may not have done some networking and met some people. But even beyond that, just the experience and the additional knowledge and the nuggets and the aha moments that I got from that, I thought were super cool, which is why I'm sharing it with you. Yeah. It's also why I'm wearing my Jerry Garcia tie. Hey. I know that I slammed through that like super fast, but I'm curious, what were you guys' favorite takeaways? I know that Mo popped in last minute, so it's not completely fair to him, but all right, good talk.
I literally took like 5 pages of notes of just really good takeaways, really good lines. I thought that the statistics were really, really awesome about, I know Mo didn't hear the statistics at the very beginning of how much information, 100 years to 72 days. So I think he'll like that one, but super awesome stuff. I'm jealous that you got to go.
A real quick recap on that, Mo, and for anybody else on YouTube that got in late. They were talking about what they call century learning and what it took our grandparents and stuff, that generation, 100 years to learn. They now call that the century mark of learning. What took them 100 years to learn, with today's technology and ability to share it, they say at this moment in time, we are learning the same amount of information in 72 days. 100 years of advancement is now being accomplished in 72 days. Unfortunately, the information is going up this way, and he pointed out that common sense is going this way.
Where does that leave us 10 years from now?
Exactly. And that's why his message is going out so much. And the primary message out of it was get back to the basics. We're losing communication skills, listening skills, all the above, which is why 1 out of 3 adults are lonely. We don't have the listening skills, the communication skills, the outlets, things of that nature. And they're finding generations below us are even worse off because they're being fooled into thinking that those are forms of communication.
Well, I know from my own personal experience, just watching my own kids growing up right now, that when they were in like elementary school, they would have play dates and stuff. And now that they're basically late junior high, they don't have play dates anymore. They talk to their friends online and that's it.
Yeah.
So what does that mean when they get in high school?
What does that mean when they get out and have to interact with humans in their natural environment?
Yep.
And so getting the awareness out, the message out, the information out on building listening and communication skills is getting more and more important. Yay! So that finishes up hour one. For those of you that are new to Triple T or watching on YouTube for the first time or watching this is your first recording, this is where I've set it up to where the first hour I open my brains and throw them on the table and share some items with you. And then the second hour, I open it up for you guys, anybody on the call. If you have any questions or topics that you would like addressed, we allow anybody on the call to answer, and I will answer after everybody else has, because I didn't want it to be all about me. So
I have a question.
Good.
Staying in the vein of what we were just talking about. So if communication skills are basically dwindling, how do you, like everybody on the call right now has the ability to promote that, but how do you get somebody interested who's maybe not necessarily engaged, not necessarily interested? How do you get them interested? How do you get them engaged? How do you get them to a position where that is something that they desire and they want to do?
Okay. Who's got a good answer for me?
Mo, can you repeat that once more? I apologize. I was caught typing in the chat saying, hey, if anybody's got a question next, pop in, and I missed a good chunk of it. So I'm sorry, Mo. So can you ask it once more?
Basically what I was asking is, so with the communication dwindling down now, how do we get people engaged into being interested in creating that ability, creating communication, creating that closeness, creating those skills that they don't have currently when they have no desire? I'm all good over here. Like I got my computer and I'm all good. I don't need that. How do you motivate them?
For me, I would find time to, especially if it's with children, find time to say, okay, that's cool. We're going to do that for this time. Then we're going to do this. And to literally get out of the house and get away from the electronics and find a way to reconnect, whether you're bowling or you're on a walk or you're on a hike or doing something where you're both doing it together, and it becomes something that you can also have fun doing, or like a way to de-stress. I know a close friend of mine, when they're kind of in a funk, they're like, let's go for a walk. And he and his son leave the house and they go for a walk. And they've just kind of gotten into the flow of that. And he says within 5 minutes, they're both feeling so much better because they are getting that bonding. I do a lot of work with students that are in this teenage realm, and trying to get them to talk. Thank goodness for Echo Talk. Trying to get them to talk about anything is sometimes pulling teeth. So whether it's because I'm not physically with them, I can't physically go outside with them, this is our means of communication. So I will ask, okay, like, what did you watch on TV? Tell me about it. And if they're talking about Stranger Things, and I'm asking for the sequence of it rather than, yeah, it was a good show. Tell me about the character. What do you think will happen? And asking questions about the topics that they like. I'm not a Stranger Things. See, I can't even say the right title. Not my forte, but I just keep asking them questions and keep asking them questions in a conversational way to get them to engage. Or, hey, what do you want to make? What kind of pizza would you make? Or for little ones, tell me, how would you make a Krabby Patty? And I just keep generating questions from their favorite things to get them to converse, because it's truly, truly, I know it's important to you as a parent, but it's also really important that they're able to go from peer-to-peer interaction and from interaction with a teacher and interaction with another person and being able to maneuver in and out of those conversations. I even encourage parents to take them to the grocery store, and then what do? Like, oh, I'll be right back. I have to run and get something. And I know there are some kids that will not go to the grocery store because they're terrified of that situation. So I encourage parents to put them in those situations and let them understand that they're okay to talk to the cashier or to go up to somebody and say, hey, excuse me, can you help me find that? Because just that basic communication is really becoming very, very missed because of our devices that we can just get so pulled into.
Well, you're absolutely right. And that's where I'm seeing a huge problem and now really coming up right now. They don't even communicate with each other properly. Like when you listen to the two kids talk, it's like a lot of grunting and they're not even full sentences, and it's almost like they're speaking a different language. They kind of get what each other is saying, but I'm sitting there listening to it and I go, I didn't understand a word you just said.
Very, very much so. And to keep putting them in those situations so that they can practice. And if you want to call it a habit, a practice, a routine, whatever label you want to give it, but for them to get comfortable, because there are people who are like, think about it. When you and I were younger, we would have to call for the movie times. We would have to call for pizza. We had to do certain social interactions that aren't pressed anymore. Everything is so electronic that we have to now find ways to put them in social situations so they know what to do and how to communicate clearly and to hold eye contact. A lot of the time, even if you're with younger cashiers, they can't hold this eye contact for longer than 3 seconds. They don't know how to do it. And it's simply, they haven't been practiced enough in doing it. And now we've all shielded everybody up and buttoned everybody up. And now we have to reintegrate and retrain these skills. And for speech therapy, the skyrocketing of the need for social skills has gone through the roof, up through the percentages, because of just simply the last 3 years and isolation.
And I get that. Where I'm struggling with what happens if they have no interest in, they think their communication skills are perfectly fine. Like they don't even get that they suck, right?
No, they have no idea. And that's very normal. Why would they know? They don't know. So to try and whether you sit down and watch a movie together and then you talk about it or you pause it or you interject, what would you do if you were the writer, if you're the director, if you're the producer, what angle would you have done this from? And find different ways to talk about the things that are of interest to them to the best of your ability, or integrate music. And hey, do we want to go take guitar lessons? Do we want to go take, something else, rock climbing together? To that way you've started at the TV where they're pretty comfortable, or the video game where they're pretty comfortable. And now you're starting to make that separation because now they have something. You are that firm safety that they can communicate with. They now have somebody who's understanding them more consistently. If that makes sense, but we could talk more for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. Who else? Bueller. One of the takeaways on what Lenora was sharing with is, again, drilling down to a reason for them to listen. What kind of a lifestyle do you want when you get out of here? Do you want to live in a little shack out in the woods? Do you want to drive a 15-year-old POS car? Do you want to drive a Ferrari? And figuring out, is there any type of value, underlying values and criteria that you can build off? Well, the people that have these things, let's study them. One of my buddies, he's got some teenagers now, and I got them to get Robert Kiyosaki's board game, Cash Flow. And not only did it force them to start communicating, it also taught them about how entrepreneurial thinking works. And it also taught mom and dad stuff that they didn't know. And when the kids started winning against the parents, it was extra motivation. So that could be another form where you just say, this particular night for 2 hours, electronics are off, and we're going to see who wins this game. I've never played the game, but I want it to be edutainment, because you guys told me that you don't want to live in a cardboard shack out on the back 40, especially where you live, Mo. Yeah, let's live in a cardboard shack in the middle of Canada in the wintertime. And when they understand what it takes for you to keep heat and food and transportation operational, you can reference the fact that you have to have a certain level of communication skills to be able to attain these. And then find some of the, especially now with access to YouTube and internet, and all that stuff, there's a plethora of references to where you can go, here's a person that has the things that you say you want. How do they talk? Who did they have to deal with to be able to get to that point? Did they have to communicate with bankers? Did they have to communicate with lawyers? Did they have to communicate with city planners? Did they have to communicate with builders? They had to be able to communicate with somebody, unless the only way that they got their fortune was they communicated with the lottery ticket seller down at the local gas station. Other than that, there are certain viable communication skills that need to be accomplished. The other thing that you can do is, if they have situations that they think are, like they heard about something on the news or something like da 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 da, get them talking about it. Even though we know, as much as I hate the news as a reference, point out where there are communication errors. what could have been done? What are 3 possible solutions to have made it better? And Aaron brought up here, added some stuff in here. Perfect question, Maurice. Communication skills are useful to learn, but most people think the solution to the problems caused by social media is increased social media. That's what is contributing to the loneliness problem that I had mentioned. Humans are not hardwired to find social media truly satisfying outside of the dopamine hit it gives us. And the problem with dopamine is dopamine only wants more dopamine. Doesn't care where it comes from. It just knows that it'll never get enough. It always wants more. Anybody else got anything to share? By the way, thanks, Aaron, for reaching out and sharing that.
So I've got one more question. It's something that I'm struggling with right now. So my oldest son, he's in a position right now to get his learners. Has been for about 10 months now. I'm having a terrible time getting him motivated to study his test so he can get his learner's license so he can start driving. Has no interest in it. And I don't know how to motivate him to do that.
Okay. Anybody got answers for
that? My husband, when he was younger, he was in the same boat. He had no desire. And turned out he really just didn't have a desire to drive, but also he was afraid of getting in a car accident. So, trying to figure out the underlying cause as to why. When I first read learners, or when I first heard it, I didn't realize you were talking about a permit. I thought you meant studying.
Yeah, he's not afraid of getting in an accident like that. He's tried to write it. It's here now. When I wrote the test, it was not that hard, but it's super hard. And I was actually just talking with the lady at DMV today, and she was saying that most kids, it's 5 or 6 times they have to write the test before they can actually pass it. It's super hard, and he's written it twice now, and he's failed miserably, and now he doesn't even want to try anymore. So.
Anybody else got any input for that?
Just wondering whether the motivation of the expansion to his life with a driver's license would be a suitable lure and carrot to get him.
Yeah, it's super important because we live out in the country. So there's no buses, there's nothing. Like, the closest town's about 3-4 miles away. It's not a long walk, right? And he's rapidly approaching, and here it's different everywhere, but here in particular, you have to have your learner's permit for 2 years before you can actually get your license. So he's already almost squandered away 1 year of that 2 years that he could have been eligible to get it at 16, right?
Yeah, and I mean, for a teenager, the social life is so important, and being able to get places.
But I've noticed it with not just with my kids, but just the generation coming up. A lot of kids are just not motivated, not interested. When I was that age, if I could have got my license at 13, I would have it, right? Never mind. But that doesn't exist now. And I don't really get why, right?
So you think it's the hardness factor?
The hardness factor, well, failing the test twice, I think, is taking a hit on his self-esteem, definitely. But it's not uncommon. Like very, very fair. I was talking to a lady today. She says almost nobody ever passes on the first go, right? It's super hard. And to be honest with you, I think if I've been driving for lots of years, if I was going to rewrite it today, I probably wouldn't pass it. There's just a lot of stuff that you don't even think about in the daily driving situation. That they ask questions on, and then they set the questions up in such a fashion that they kind of set you up to fail. Like they'll make them so close that if you don't know the exact right multiple choice answer, you're done, right?
Then I've heard people talk about getting people conditioned to be okay with not succeeding and just thinking that this is just a stepping stone for life. And actually practicing failing, as in it's okay to fail at something and be happy about it. But it does take a lot of practicing and reconditioning to make that okay. And, you know, of course, there are circumstances and situations where that may not be desirable. But, you know, if people are being daunted by failure, to actually condition them to a point where they're okay that it's, you know, that it didn't work out this time. And that's a real hard one to do. And it does take a lot of practice. But I have heard of some people that actually set tasks for people to feel comfortable with them not getting their immediate desired result. Don't know whether that's of any help, but
Yeah, I haven't done a very good job of that, but are you familiar with the, are you familiar with Spanx? The women's underwear garment?
no.
Okay, well, anyways, it's a multi-billion-dollar company. And the girl who started it from scratch, she's fairly young, maybe in her 40s now. When she was a kid, her dad was a lawyer. And she wanted to be a lawyer, a prosecuting lawyer like her dad, criminal lawyer. But she couldn't pass the bar. She tried to write it 3 times. And that's the 3rd time they wouldn't let her write it again. And then she ended up starting a Spanx company, but that's not here nor there. When she was a kid, her dad used to, every day when they had to sit down for dinner every day with her and her brother, her dad wanted to know what they failed at today. I don't care what you succeeded at, what you fail at today. And his philosophy was, if you haven't failed at something today, you didn't try hard enough.
I've got
That was
a,
exactly the story I was thinking of.
yeah, I've got a question. How many times are you allowed to take that test?
Unlimited,
What is the cost to take the test?
$17 each time.
How long do you have to wait between each attempt?
1 day.
Okay. So how much money does the kid have?
Probably got $3,000 or $4,000 saved up.
Okay. So at that rate, every time he goes to take a test, he has access to read the questions. If he was able to pay a buddy of his to let him see what questions were on the test for half an hour, and it only cost him $17 for half an hour to view the questions on the test, would that be money successfully spent?
In my mind, it would be. I don't know if it would be in his
Yeah.
mind.
It's just another angle to where, okay, so this time you're going to go to take the test. Your goal isn't whether or not you're going to pass or fail. It's to read in depth all the questions.
Where one of the problems come in is the way the test is set up, that you can't pre-see all the questions. So you read this question and you do this question. And
Yep.
as soon as you get 5 wrong, you're done. It kicks you out.
Ah!
Maybe the system is to start treating it more like a computer game, because I mean, you when you're raising your levels, you have to get to a point where you fail, and then you keep practicing until you get to the next step. So if he starts looking at it more like a computer game, perhaps, that, you know, you get to the next level and you get to the next level, even if even if you do stumble up on some of the earlier questions.
That would
If it's
probably work.
important to you, Mo, are you willing to fund his attempts at?
I have been funding it up until now. And the deal we had was every time he failed, he paid for it, and every time he passed, I paid for it. And so now he's got to the point he doesn't want to try anymore because it costs him money.
Yeah, might have to be the other way around. Every time he fails, you pay for it, and every time he succeeds, he pays for it. Just a little ship.
What motorized vehicle does he have access to now? Four-wheeler or motorcycle or ATV or?
He doesn't have anything at this point. He had an ATV and a quad and stuff when he was younger.
Nancy?
Have you tried just quizzing him on his instruction book?
Yeah, so basically what he's got the actual booklet that he reads, and then I bought him a bunch of flashcards. So basically all the questions that are on the test, there's a fairly substantial stack of flashcards. So not all those questions are on every test, but depending on which test you get. But we go through the flashcards, but now he's gotten to the point, like I asked him this weekend, this is when you're going to be ready to write your next test. When I study some more? No, I'm taking a break from it.
Does he have anxiety when he takes tests? Like in school?
Probably, I think everybody has. Most people to a point have some kind of anxiety with it. So I never asked him about that, but my guess would be probably.
If not, he might be getting it now.
Yeah.
Has he actually driven?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So in the subdivision, like he used to have a dune buggy and all that, and he's actually a very good driver. So we take him around the subdivision when it's not any traffic and let him drive when we get on onto the main roads, and we can't drive on the main roads.
Okay.
And because we're out in the country, that I've set pylons in the summertime. I set pylons up in the yard and would try to parallel park and back between the pylons and all that kind of stuff. So.
Nice. The other question that I thought about was, if you ask him where is it? How far out of his reach is it? How close is it? Is he okay not driving for the next 10 years? And kind of seeing where it is in trajectory of things that he's wanting to. Because if you're like, all right, then another 10 years, we'll come back to it.
Well,
and
that's the attitude of not just him, but just this generation coming up. That's their attitude. Like a lot of people I know that their kids are 18, 20, 22 years old before they get their license, and they were able to get it at 16. They just don't care. They just don't want it now. It's not an issue for them. I don't really. So that's such a foreign thing for me. I just don't get it.
This may sound a little harsh to some people. I think part of what I've found through some of the young people that I've worked with, part of the reason they don't have a problem staying at home is because they have access to the world. When we were young, our only way to get away from home was wheels. That's why I bought my first car when I was 12. I was driving. I may or may not have been driving my grandmother's 79 Thunderbird around Grand Forks, North Dakota, like between the ages of 13 and on up. But that was because, man, back then, that was the only way for us to see other stuff. And you may just have to start having the only password to internet capability, and internet is only available at these certain times for these certain reasons. And when I leave the house, I'm gonna shut it off, because if you want to do something, if you want to experience something, all you got to do is drive to town. And to drive to town, you're going to need a couple of things. You're going to need a vehicle, and you're going to need the ability to officially operate the vehicle. I know that one of my friends, her daughter had zero interest in getting her driver's license because mom and dad would drive her anywhere she wanted to because she had to get there. And then when mom and dad finally were like, look, you're out of high school. We're not your taxi. So she moved to a place with public transit, but would still rely on mom and dad to drive down to the Twin Cities to pick her up and bring her back for family functions. And I said, stop it. If she doesn't have a reason to get a driver's license, then it's not strong enough to want to be at these functions, or she will figure it out. And after missing a couple of family functions, she got this brilliant idea that maybe she should go get a driver's license. And she did. So again, if you can't find the why, sometimes you have to find the pain.
You give me a good idea. Is just start drilling down on why this might be important for him.
Yeah.
What benefits might he get out of it? And just start drilling down and get him to tell me why it would be a good thing. Because right now what's happening is I'm telling him it would be good.
Yeah. And does he have any buddies that are in the same boat?
Yeah, basically they're all none of them have any interest in getting a license.
Then if you're friends with his friends' parents, what might happen if you put together 3 or 4 of his friends and have a competition where the parents all chip in a little bit of money, and whoever gets their driver's license, whoever passes the test first gets the pot, and turn it into a competition between his buddies, not having the parents go, you have to do this. We got, and Nancy posted in the comments, maybe he needs to create a pros and cons list on simple active driving. Aaron posted, but of course the real issue is why has he given up, and identifying the solution to that. Lots of good stuff in here.
The only pitfall with that winner gets the pot is that the winner will then be the designated driver for everybody else. And that might demotivate the others.
That might be
It might inspire them.
That might be part of the rules to the game. If you're going to play the game, here's the rules. First one to pass the test wins the money. But you don't get to, or you tier it. If you got four people, 150, 25, last person is the last person. Just some thoughts to throw out there, Anybody else got anything, or we got another question or another topic, or? I'm going to start making you guys put questions in as soon as you show up for the second hour.
That's the new toll.
Otherwise,
Please drop a question into the chat before you completely log in.
I'm gonna go to my quotes and hit you guys with some thoughtness stuff.
I was actually going to see, I don't know if you have time. Can you briefly review your 3-chair protocol?
3-chair protocol.
Yes, if possible. And I know there was a request for timeline at one point also.
Oh yeah, there was a timeline with energy infusion request also. 3-chair protocol is, I use it for unresolved situations, ability to help people understand other people's side of arguments or things of that nature. Unresolved situations with people who have passed away or have gotten out of communication. The protocol that I use, I have the control room, where, quick overview, I'm not going to go in depth with all of these protocol stuff, but the control room is where the client goes down subconscious up to the control room where all the energies are ran from, all the above, large industrial building, security door. They can advance the security system on the door any way they want. They unlock the system, enter inside. Inside the control room is a display, kind of like a huge monitor, computer monitor, that has all of the information, any alarms that they need to be aware of, things that have come up in that their subconscious recorded, different thermostats along the wall, financial thermostats, things of that nature. And then in the corner is the hologram deck, and they go into the hologram deck. And in the hologram deck, if you understand hologram decks, you can have virtually anything. It's like AI. And you set up a situation where there are 3 different chairs. 2 chairs are facing each other, 1 and 2. And the third one is off the side. That's number 3 as the observer. And I have the client sit in chair number 1, and we bring out an avatar of the person they want to interact with, whether it was argument or forgiveness, or if they were done wrong, being able to figure out, why did you do this to me, all the above. And as the client sits in chair 1, they are able to address that person in whatever manner they need to. And then I have the client, after saying all the things they need to say or wanted to say, get up and sit into the avatar of the other person and answer them back as the avatar. And in doing so, they're often surprised at the information that comes out of their mouth from the avatar of the person they needed to communicate with for whatever reason. And I can have them go back and forth between chair 1 and 2 if it's an argument situation. And they get to speak both sides. And when they've about exhausted the whole conversation between the two, then I have them go over to chair number 3 as the observer, and I play the whole recording of the conversation so they can also get the perspective as an observer, seeing both sides. And it has brought a lot of closure and clarity for people that thought that was beyond it, time had passed too much, or the other person had passed away, or stuff like that. Was that I know that was pretty fast. Reader's Digest. Did that answer the questions you were looking for? Anybody else got any other questions on that particular protocol?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment I could make if you can hear me.
Yes, please.
One of the things I love to do with this protocol too is I'll give the person the option to divide the person they're talking to into 3 different avatars. One is the healthy version of them, the good. The second avatar is the hurting person. So any part of them that's unhealthy but means well. And then the third avatar is any part of them that's genuinely, I'm not gonna use the word evil, but genuinely out to hurt them. Because sometimes it's a lot easier to say something to the part that was genuinely evil, knowing that the part that's good has been separated out. And sometimes I'll even let the part that's good talk to the part that's hurting them. So sometimes you might have, my alcoholic father abused me. Well, maybe sober father wishes he could kick alcoholic father's ass for doing that, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes that could be very helpful too. But just my 2 cents.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Holly, for sharing that. Anybody else got any comments, questions, ahas, epiphanies, or things they want to add to that? Good. Alrighty then. Any other questions or topics that you guys want to bring up, or?
You may have already covered this. Obviously, I came in a little bit late, but if anybody has any recommendations on what to do when you feel extremely exhausted all the time, I know we have some techniques, but anything you could think of would be helpful.
Okay, who wants to answer that one, please?
The first thing that I would for me that I find most beneficial is writing and asking that question of what could this be about, and just letting that pen flow and let as much come out as possible. And how might you be able to help yourself? What do you need to give yourself so that you can feel however you want to feel? If you're feeling exhausted, where do you want to go? Do you want to feel rested? Do you want to feel excited? Do you want to, and navigating through that component and tailoring it that way. Definitely gray room or any sort of clearing before bedtime. I find that to be extremely helpful. It's simply a matter of making sure that you do it, but also when you lay down, to set that intention of what do you want from this sleep? What do you want your body to do? And talk to your body of, you have all the time in the world to take as much time. So take as much time as you need to get the amount of rest that you want and you deserve. Time will stop, time will freeze completely for you so that you can get everything that you need, and separate that so that when you go to sleep, you're letting your body rest and you're letting your mind rest, and quite literally take a clock and freeze time. And And also then project out for when you do wake up, how do you want to wake up? Those are some things that I would say to do this evening. If that was those are the things that I would do this evening if that's how I was feeling.
Awesome. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My question for you, Lenora. So that's something that you should be doing on yourself, or have somebody else do it to you?
Which part? All of that I mentioned was things
Yeah,
that
like
I would do for me.
Yeah, like because I really like the part that you said, well, why am I feeling this way? What's occurring?
Mhm.
But that may be really hard to be the passenger and the driver to really drill down on what's going on as to why you're being tired, right?
Completely. What I find that writing helps for me. I can get there fastest. I do also find that my brain is going faster. If I'm trying to keep track of it, I will record. I will just do a voice audio, and whatever comes out because it's really just for me. Because so many things, and I will actually end up having a dialogue between how I'm feeling and what's coming in, and it's hard to write it as fast as it comes in. But that way I'd have a catalog or a reference of what's going on, because there can be a lot. It might not be one thing, especially if you're going to sit down and dedicate time to that. But if you need to pause and have that release of information come out, it's good to have some sort of a guideline. And then the nice thing is that in the event that you do need to go back to it, you end up going, holy crap, yeah, that was a tough night. And wow, that was only 2 weeks ago. And I feel so much better from getting it out. It doesn't necessarily, ideally for it to come out and you can clean it entirely, but in the process of it coming out, it might just clean itself and it's coming out of the system. And that's very, very beneficial.
I think that is such an impressive protocol. And I think I need to make myself a recording of this. So I actually play this as I'm just settling down to go to sleep and have these questions so that I can remind myself exactly all those things as I drift into sleep. I think that would be really powerful. So forgive me, but I'm going to steal that from you, Lenora, please.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
See, you can't steal it when it's given to you.
There you go. It's a download. Thank you. See, you know what, Fran? That would have downloaded to me about 15 minutes after the conversation. So TJ is much faster with those things. So thank you for grabbing that download faster than I did.
Thank you for sharing that download. That is really powerful. That's something that can make a big difference in a lot of lives, including mine.
And the one thing that I would just like to say, I know that everybody on the call that's on here right now understands what the gray room is, but somebody listening might not know what the gray room is. They may not know how to do that themselves at home. So would somebody like to go ahead and explain the gray room process to them so that they can do it at home and practice it?
What I was going to say on that is, if you're watching the recording, we don't want to do a quick gloss over on stuff like that. Please reach out to myself on my website, thetswb.com. And I can also refer you to anybody that's on the call. And we would be more than happy to go into depth on any of these protocols so that you can utilize them for yourself. The other thing that I was going to ask Holly or suggest is, in this day and age, there's so much information out there for diet. Keep an eye on what you're eating, when you're eating, especially if you're in a new situation where, you know, if you're starting a new job, if you've got things going on, because during those situations, your body is burning energy at a much higher rate. And you have to be cognizant of what has changed in your life what hasn't. And one of the really good fitness trainers said he doesn't even ask his clients what they ate, or he doesn't tell his clients what to eat. He simply asks them, well, what have you eaten? And as they start listing off everything that they've eaten, he goes, is that a proper choice for what you want to accomplish? And he said, with today's access to information, they know what's a proper choice. And if they don't, by them researching it themselves instead of being told, the information is much more impressionable. They're much more likely to follow it. And yes, Lenora can explain gray room quite well to the group.
I won't jump into that one, but one quick one that I do like to do is, for those who don't know what gray room is, you know what a suitcase is. So put a suitcase in your mind, put your suitcase outside or put it down on the floor and take all the things that are bugging you, everything, all your shit, and put it in your suitcase, close it up, check your bag outside your door, just like you would when you would get on a flight. Leave that suitcase outside your bedroom. You can pick it back up first thing in the morning when you get up. But this time, once you come into that bedroom, when you go to sleep, it is just for rest, and all those other things, have to's, get to's, need to's, gotta do's, stay outside. This is very specific. Set the intention for what you're doing.
And if need be, you can pick it up in the morning when you leave.
This is what I love about the second hour of Triple T. Because those things, right, that have just come out, I haven't heard those before. So we have 8 minis left. Who's got an 8 mini question? And don't take 7 minutes to speak up and say it. Or is it quote time?
I like quotes.
Let's see. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Soren Kierkegaard. And as always, I read them twice. Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. Lost leaves spin past the glass, but the trees stay by my window. What I got from that is, be the tree. Leaves, seasons will come and go. Sometimes you just got to let stuff go. Lost leaves spin past the glass, but the trees stay by my window. So many people pray for a money tree, but get discouraged when God gives them a seed. They cannot see the potential, nor do they want to invest the time or put forth the effort to make it grow to maturity. It's easier and safer to go to someone else's tree and ask them for a job, so they can be given a small portion of the crop. I'll read that one again. So many people pray for a money tree, but get discouraged when God gives them a seed. They cannot see the potential, nor do they want to invest the time or put forth the effort to make it grow to maturity. It's easier and safer to go to someone else's tree and ask them for a job, so they can be given a small portion of the crop. And one more, especially for those that deal with clients who have anxiety. No amount of anxiety is going to make a difference in the things that are going to happen. Alan Watts. I'll read that again. No amount of anxiety is going to make a difference in the things that are going to happen. You can
Like
word
this.
or you can prepare. One of them will serve you better. I just came up with that one. That's me.
On the fly. Nice download. Those were good ones. I really like the second one. I found one today, Maurice. This might resonate a little bit with you. Smile at the obstacle, for it is a bridge.
Would you say that again, please, for the people that are trying to write it down?
I do like that you read them twice. I'm going to declare that. They're fantastic. Smile at the obstacle, for it is a bridge.
Yes. Do you know why I read them twice?
So they settle in deeper.
Because the first time when you get to the end, people are like, oh, that was cool. I don't remember what you said, but I remember that it made me feel good.
It's wildly accurate.
Yeah. So you read it again and they're like, oh, that's why. That's even cooler. Okay, we got 2 minis. Anybody got any last comments, shares, ahas, epiphanies? For Elijah that's out there having a great day, it's his birthday. We miss our Elijah tonight, but we are with him in spirit. So happy birthday, Elijah. Yay! And if nobody else has anything, I'm just going to start into my massive amount of appreciation for every one of you. From every part of my being and all 3 of my brains. And for those of you that have never heard that concept, don't go there. Gut brain, heart brain, gray matter brain. Mad love for each of you guys for taking the time out of your day to come on here and share it with my little creation, and being willing to make it part of a reason that I make creations to put on YouTube to share with others, so that hopefully somebody will hear exactly what they needed to hear when they needed to hear it, so that it can either impact themselves or they can use it to help impact somebody else. So love y'all, ding ding, and all these. I'm still trying to figure out pumping heart, loving heart. I see you in my heart. I need some sleep. I will see you all in 7. Same bat time, same bat channel, same crazy me, and same lovable you guys. So until then, stay healthy, be well, go out and be nice to each other. Stole that from Briggs.